Picture this for a moment. Two people, the first one works 50 hours a week, they wake up early, hustle all day, go to bed exhausted and still feel like they are barely making progress. The second one, they work 5 hours a week, that's it. And somehow they make 10 times more. Now, if that sounds like a scam or fantasy, I want you to stop for a second and ask yourself, could there be something they know that the first person doesn't? This isn't luck. It isn't shortcut. It's something called leverage. And if you don't understand leverage, your hard work will always hit a ceiling. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. If you are only relying on your own time and your own money to get ahead, you are playing a losing game. There is only so much time in a day. There is only so much energy you can burn before you hit exhaustion. You can't clone yourself and you can't be everywhere at once. Meanwhile, the people who seem to leap ahead, they are playing a very different game. They have mastered leverage. And there are two forms of leverage that you absolutely need to understand if you want to build wealth and freedom in today's world. By the end of this video, you will know exactly why some people seem unstoppable while others stay stuck on the treadmill forever. And you will know how you can start applying leverage even if you are starting from zero. For those new here, I'm Muzaffar Teja, qualified accountant, investment banker, and I have spent my entire career studying how money really moves in the real world. On this channel, we don't just talk about money, we talk about taking control of your life. Personal finance systems, wealth building mindsets, self-development frameworks, and investment strategies that actually work in the real world. If that's your vibe, hit subscribe and ring the bell because I drop game-changing content every single week. Let me start with a question. Why is it that two people can start in the same place with the same education, with the same number of hours in a day, and 10 years later, one is financially free while the other is still living paycheck to paycheck? It's tempting to say, well, one just worked harder, but that's almost never the full story. Because here is the thing, hard work alone isn't enough. There are only three levers you can pull in life to create wealth. The first is the amount of efforts you put in. The second is how much money you manage to invest, and the third, the one that separates good from the great, is how well you multiply those first two through leverage. If you don't use leverage, your growth will always be linear. 1 unit of effort equals to 1 unit of reward. But leverage, that's where growth turns exponential. Think of it like this. A person working 40 hours a week for £25 an hour will make £1,000 a week. To make more, they either work more hours or hope someone gives them a raise. And even then, there is a ceiling. Meanwhile, someone who understands leverage can create something once and it keep working for them forever. An investor puts money into an asset and that assets generate income every month even when they are asleep. A YouTuber makes a single video and that video earns views and income for years. A software developer writes a tool once and it gets used by millions of people every day without them touching it. That's the power of leverage. But let's slow down for a second, because before we go any further, we need to define what leverage actually means. At its core, leverage is anything that allows you to multiply the results of your effort without multiplying your effort itself. Think about a physical lever. You push down on one side and suddenly you can lift something 10 times heavier than you ever could with your bare hands. That's mechanical leverage. In the same way, in finance and in life, leverage is about finding those long levers that give you 10 times, 100 times, sometimes 1000 times output from the same amount of input. When you use a lever, you are no longer relying purely on your own strength. You are using tools, systems, money, people, or technology to amplify what you can do. That's why leverage is the ultimate multiplier. And when you truly understand this, you stop asking, how can I work harder? And you start asking, how can I set things up so that my effort goes further? And if you are thinking, but I'm just starting out, I don't have capital, I don't have a team, I don't have skills, stay with me. Because leverage isn't only about money. The most powerful form of leverage is the kind that costs nothing but multiplies everything. Naval Ravikant, a name you might have heard if you are into startups or personal growth, once said something that stuck with me forever. He said, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, I will move the earth." Wealth is built by leverage. First with labor, then with capital, then with code and media. Leverage is the key. In other words, throughout history, people have always used leverage to achieve more than they could alone. At first, it was labor. If you wanted to build a bridge, you didn't do it alone. You had 100 people working on it with you. Then came capital, using money as a leverage. You could borrow, invest, and suddenly control assets much bigger than yourself. And now, the two biggest levers of all are code and media. A single line of code can run millions of times without you touching it. A single YouTube video or TikTok can reach millions of people around the world without you being there. And here is the best part. You don't need permission to use these levers. You don't need to be born rich. You just need creativity, persistence, and a willingness to start. So what are the two types of leverage you need to master? Number one is the financial leverage. Number two is the time and skill leverage. One is about using money. The other is about using systems, tools, and people to multiply your time and skills. The most successful people on the planet combine both. But here is what most people do. They fear leverage. They are scared of debt. They are scared to invest in tools or in other people. And as a result, they end up stuck. We are going to change that today. Let's start with financial leverage because this is the one most people misunderstand. When most people hear the word leverage, they immediately think of one thing, debt, and their whole body tenses up. But here is what I want you to remember. Debt is just a tool. A hammer can build a house or it can break a window. The hammer isn't good or bad. It's all about how you use it. Financial leverage is using other people's money to make your own money grow. That's it. And done right, it's one of the most powerful forces in wealth creation. Done wrong, it will wipe you out. So let's break this down in a way that finally makes sense. Suppose you have £50,000. You could buy a flat worth £50,000 outright, own it fully, and call it a day. Or you could use that 50,000 as a 20% down payment and borrow the remaining 80% from a bank. Suddenly you are controlling a £250,000 property. Now imagine that property grows in value by 10%. On the £50,000 property, that's a gain of £5,000. On £250,000 property, that's a gain of £25,000. Same initial money, completely different outcomes. That's financial leverage. It magnifies your upside. Of course, it can also magnify your downside. If the property falls in value, you don't just lose your own capital, you still owe the bank. That's why leverage is often called a double-edged sword. Think about how every wealthy person uses this. Property investors, mortgage, business owners, investor capital, stock market traders, margin accounts. Even Apple, a company with more cash than most governments, borrow money because if they can borrow at 3% and invest in something earning 10%, that difference is free profit. There is a saying that sums this up perfectly. Those who understand interest earn it. Those who don't pay it. Here is where most people go wrong. There is good debt and there is a bad debt. Good debt puts money into your pocket. Bad debt takes money out. Borrowing to buy an income generating asset, that's good debt. Borrowing to buy something that doesn't pay you back, like a flashy car you can't afford, that's a bad debt. This isn't something school teach. We just grow up hearing all debt is bad. As a result, we avoid even the kind of debt that could change our lives. We fear what we don't understand. Most of us have only seen the destructive side of debt. Credit card bills, payday loans, financial stress. So we throw out the tool entirely instead of learning how to use it correctly. But here is the thing. People who build real wealth, they don't fear debt, they master it. The first rule is risk management. Never borrow short term to buy something long term. Never borrow at a higher interest rate than you can realistically earn. Always leave a safety margin. If you borrow at 3%, don't assume your investment will make 10%. Ask yourself, what if it only makes 5%? The second rule is cash flow discipline. If you borrow money, the payment must be covered by the asset itself, not by your salary. In real estate, that means your tenant's rent pays the mortgage. If you are covering the loan out of your own pocket, you don't own an asset, you own a liability with a ticking clock attached. Let me show you just how powerful this can be. Two friends each have £1,000. Friend A plays it safe. They buy a flat outright. Rent is £800 pound per month, so they earn 9,600 pound per year. Friend B uses that 100,000 pound as a deposit on 5 flats. After paying all costs and mortgages, they net 200 pound per month on each property. That's 12,000 pound a year. Now imagine property prices rise 10%. Friend A's property goes up by 10,000 pound. Friend B's portfolio goes up by 50,000 pound. That's the multiplier effect. Yes, friend B carries more risk, but over time, responsible leverage lets their wealth grow far faster than friend A's. This is where most people switch off. They think, well, that's all fine for rich people, but I don't have money. But financial leverage doesn't just mean borrowing millions from a bank. If your employer matches your pension contribution, that's leverage. They are giving you free money. If you invest in a low-cost index fund, compound growth is a form of leverage. Time is doing the heavy lifting. And you can even use partnerships. Bring your skills, someone else brings capital. That's a joint venture. Remember this, capital leverage often starts with skill leverage. Financial leverage can be life-changing, but it's not the whole story. In fact, the second type of leverage we are about to cover is even more powerful, and it's available to everyone, no matter where you are starting from. If financial leverage is the engine of wealth, then the time and skill leverage is the fuel. And here is the good news. This form of leverage does not depend on how much money you have. This is about multiplying your time, your skills, and your ideas so that you can get more done without burning yourself out. If you only ever rely on yourself, here is how your life works. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. You stop working, the money stops. It's linear. But time and skill leverage flips the script. You do the work once, build a stream, create a process, hire someone, record a video, and that work keeps going even when you are not there. First through people, delegation, second through systems and technology, third through media and intellectual property. Let's talk about delegation first. This is where a lot of people get stuck. We want control. We think I can't afford to hire someone, or nobody can do it as well as me, or it's faster if I just do it myself. And in the short term, those excuses feel true, but in the long term, if you don't delegate, you become the bottleneck. You can only grow as far as your own time stretches. Every entrepreneur, every successful creator, every big business owner eventually comes to this realization. I can either do everything myself and stay small, or I can build a team and grow. And thanks to the gig economy, you don't even need full-time staff to start. You can hire freelancers for a few hours, virtual assistants, editors, specialists. You pay a little, and return you get back hours of your life. Hours you can now spend on work that actually grows your wealth. The second way to multiply yourself is, think about it. Technology works 24/7. It doesn't ask for a raise. It doesn't need a lunch break. One automation tool can handle what would take you 10 hours. This is why I live by a simple rule. If I find myself doing the same thing more than 3 times, I figure out how to automate it. This is leverage. It might take you few hours to set up at first, but then it saves you hundreds of hours over time. And finally, the form of leverage that has changed my life and the lives of countless others, media. When you create a YouTube video or a blog post or even a TikTok, something magical happens. That piece of work can work for you forever. You record it once and it keeps reaching people every day. You're not there, but your work is. This is why building a digital presence is one of the smartest things you can do. It's like having an army of clones spreading your work around the world. So why doesn't everyone use these tools? Because they think small. They overvalue control. They undervalue their time. They let fear hold them back. Instead of asking, how can I do this myself? Start asking, who or what can do this for me? That one question changes everything. A freelancer outsources video editing. Suddenly they have 6 hours a day free to grow their client base. A YouTuber uploads 50 videos in a year. Those 50 videos become an army working 24/7, earning views and income even while they sleep. A cafe owner hires a manager. Now the cafe runs without them, giving them time to open a second location. You can start right now. Stop doing low value work. Automate repetitive work. Delegate that drains you. Share your knowledge online. Learn skill that scales. Coding, marketing, public speaking, investing. Each step multiplies your impact. And when you combine financial leverage with time and skill leverage, everything changes. Your money works for you. Your time multiplies through systems and people. You stop trading hours for money and start building systems that free you. That is the formula for freedom. So here is the ultimate truth. If you don't learn to use leverage, you will always be someone else's leverage. Start small, one system, one video, one partnership. The earlier you start, the sooner you escape the trap of linear effort. This is Mr. Financial Mindset. I'm Muzaffar Teja, reminding you, you weren't born to just trade hours for money. You were born to build systems, assets, and freedom. See you in the next one.